Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the monthly meeting of the Narra Court Lucindale Council, where we acknowledge and respect our complex history and we welcome everyone to build our future together. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed, recorded and published in accordance with the Council's live streaming and recording of public meetings policy. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. Thank you. And I've asked whether anyone wants to speak from the public, but they have declined, which is fine, and they're here just to observe, which is even better, even 2 meetings in a row. So, excellent. I'll ask whether there's any elected members' declaration of interest.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to declare a conflict of interest in relation to the confidential item in regard to the sale yards.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Public forum, item 3, there is none. Item 4, petitions and deputations. We haven't had any. Item 5, confirmation of the minutes. Would someone like to move that the minutes? Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Councillor Goodman. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. There are no matters being laid on the table. Mr. Smart? Zero. And I'll scroll to the Mayor's report. So I table my Mayor's report leading up to today. I'd just like to bring to your attention the bottom of page 4 in regard to acting CEO appointment. And I'm delighted to confirm that Mr. McCroskey has agreed to take the role for the month of March. And to say that we, in fact the panel, and I'm sure the council are delighted that Paul's taking that on. It'll give a great transition and be really seamless in my opinion, and also the panel's opinion, to get through this next month. So I'd ask you all to give him our support. So thanks, Paul. And I think I'll move that. I'll move the recommendation in regard to Mr. McCroskey with the details noted. Councillor Dennis, seconded. Yes.
On behalf of the CEO committee, I would like to extend a warm gratitude to Mr. McCroskey on taking on this role on behalf of the elected members and the wider community. We are ushering in the start of a new stage in the life of our council, and Mr. McCroskey stepping into the breach for the month. I'm sure all our EMs and our members of our team will give him his full support, and I'll look forward to the month ahead. Thank you, Mr. McCroskey.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. If there's nothing further, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. As this is Mr. Smart's last council meeting before his retirement, I would like to wish him well in his retirement. Mr. Smart has been excellent in carrying out the role of CEO for the Narra Court Lucindale Council for over 6 years, during which time he has implemented a restructure of the business as well as setting the future of the council with many master plans, which allows for structured development of the plan within the long-term financial plans. Trevor is highly respected within his peer group and will be missed by many for his clear understanding and direction setting. On a personal note, I have been privileged to have Trevor as my first CEO. He has helped guide and assist me into the role of Mayor, and I'm grateful for his perseverance and patience. And just further, Trevor was in my office earlier today and we were discussing a meeting he had yesterday with the CEO group, and once again, his clarity, the way that he expresses himself, and the way he expresses the interests of other CEOs within the group that he operates in is very valued by me, because it gives me some direction in the way that I move forward with the Limestone Coast LGA. Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you. Some may not appreciate it at times.
I understand that fully. I move that the Mayor's report be accepted. Councillor Downward, all those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. I have no elected members' reports.
Mayor, could I just quickly bring something up?
Quickly, you may, Councillor Crosling.
Last night I actually attended the face-to-face consultation at the Narracor Hospital. To say that I was disappointed I was the only council representative there is an understatement. It's a very important part of our community. There was over 30 people attended.
Councillor Crosling, is that with the Limestone Coast Local Health Network?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's actually with the consultants that they've engaged to come and go across, obviously, the Limestone Coast. Obviously, there is the Lucendale one tomorrow from 12 till 1 at the Town Hall, I believe it's been changed to. So I urge every community member to get along. If you couldn't get along last night and you can't get along tomorrow, there is a survey. It is only open until Friday. So even if you haven't had anything to really do with the hospital and the health services here in Narracor, I just urge everyone to get on there. This is the roadmap for the next 10 years of health in this area and what it looks like. So whether it's good, bad or indifferent, jump on and fill in the survey. I just wanted to also thank the council for their support with the successful Taste Festival that was held 2 weekends ago. We had around 900 people, and I just wanted to thank Daniel, Robert and Stanza and all the crew out of the works for all the help that they assist with getting that event up and running. It's a great event that the Lions Club of Narracor run. We'd just like to thank council for their assistance with that event.
Thank you, Councillor Crosling. And if I may indulge, a member of my family travelled back from Mortlake on the Sunday, and they had lunch in the park, and they didn't know there'd been a festival the day before, and they said, what a lovely, clean, tidy park to rest in. And I said the day before they were just full of people. So, Mr Willsmore, if you could pass on our thanks to a job well done by the staff, as they always do. Chief Executive Officer's report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First item, Lucendale Health Centre. So this is represented from the January meeting. It's a slight update from my report. The Trust had a special meeting, and I got an email from them the Tuesday after the agenda went out. So all the information is as is within the report, with the exception that the Trust are withdrawing the offer to relinquish the lease. My understanding is the Trust will have a meeting, probably a refreshing of trustees. So the reasoning for the withdrawal is to allow new trustees to consider whether they want to retain the head lease or relinquish it with council. So the report is pretty clear. Only probably needs one of those recommendations to proceed with the internal doors. And the second recommendation, we will park that until the Trust further advises. So the LHN have still agreed to pay the outstanding lease fee, so we've already reissued that to them, so that won't impact on council's finances or way forward. So yeah, my recommendation is as the first recommendation on screen, and to withdraw the second recommendation. Have you taken any questions at this stage then?
Councillor Goodman.
I'd like to move the first recommendation, please.
With Councillor Goodman, a seconder, please. Councillor Dennis. Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Mr. Smart.
Thank you. Housing strategy. Tried to summarise our discussion back a couple of weeks ago, to allow that to at least some actions to progress, with the understanding that it'll go back to probably a number of future briefing sessions with new CEO. Acting CEO can continue on some of that, including hopefully a budget inclusion for that independent consultant of some form to maybe help facilitate some different discussions between, whether it be with council or real estate agents, landowners, developers, etc. So I guess from a council perspective, that's what we summarised at the end of the night, I believe. Not looking for a emotional resolution tonight, more just to check in. Does that sort of capture the discussion? If not, happy to have questions, comments otherwise. So it can still be progress as much as it can until the next briefing session, I presume, with a new CEO. So happy to take comment or questions.
Any questions of Mr. Smart? Being none.
All good. Next item, the remuneration tribunals, the 2024 review of the CEO's minimum maximum amounts. In my opinion, the first effort was abysmal. The second effort has probably improved a little, but it is still throwing up a lot of questions. I attended a Mayor's CEO online forum last week, and there's still a lot of angst right across the local government sector in the cause and effect of all that. So the tribunal doesn't appear to have a good understanding of probably the grouping of councils. We've already got a grouping for elected members' allowances, which was considered back a while, and trying to group like councils in like groups, which I think mostly it works, but you can apply each year with the tribunal. A council can go up and down in those bands. So, a lot of councils commented initially that you probably should use those bands, and there's some consistency and relativity amongst your CEO salary ranges and your elected member allowances. Ultimately, the CEO and elected council are linked stronger than any other part of council administration. So it would make sense to use that. So they've come up with operating revenue as their main determinant, which can alter over a year, 2, 3 years, quite markedly, depending on policy decisions or other decisions of council. So why their current determination improves the groupings that it previously did, I think there's still a lot of gaps and holes in that. The additional parts, in my opinion, the value of the vehicle. In our contracts, there's a value put on there. Their determination, I think, confuses it. So out of 68 councils, I reckon you'd have probably many different interpretations how to calculate it, so you lose that consistency, which doesn't make any sense. And the superannuation, the tribunal doesn't seem to understand that there's a difference in what salary council pays and what's the taxation issue as far as salary sacrifice goes. So, as a CEO, if I salary sacrifice, it's no more financial effect on council. So all that does across the state, there's a lot of recruitment going on for CEOs. We're lucky enough that we've got to that point and successfully appointed, but there's a number that aren't, and those remuneration bands are having a significant effect, particularly on regional councils, on their ability to recruit appropriately. The other legal side, which the LGA has taken on board, is those that are above the band. The tribunal is suggesting that somewhere along the way, the CEO that's already signed up a contract will have to have their salary reduced. Now, I think that will probably go to a legal challenge somewhere, not by us, but probably, hopefully, the LGA does that on behalf of the sector. So the LGA is quite involved in this. They'd sought a extension of time, which was refused. So we've all got till I think 11th or 12th of March to put a submission in and go from there. So my recommendation is there for your consideration, and happy to take questions on that.
Councillor Dennis.
I'd like to move the motion as written and speak to it pretty briefly.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank the CEO for his candid comments on the review. Having been through the process twice as a councillor recruiting CEOs, we do have a lot of wonderful things about the Limestone Coast and our our council area, but obviously remuneration is a pivotal part of any role or any position, and I think that the hindrances that are placed upon regional councils are over the top, and I'd like to support this motion, and I'd like to thank the CEO for his insight and his assist on regional councils attracting and retaining CEOs.
Thank you, Councillor Jennings. Seconder, please. Councillor Ross. You have anything to add, Councillor Ross? Anyone else like to add? This has been toing and froing for some time, and even last year, and now it's gone again. So it's an ongoing chestnut, unfortunately. I'm not sure this will be the end of it, but I'd like to imagine it would be. All those in favour of the motion? Carried, thank you.
Yeah, I think that probably the only addition is the LGA may be trying to lobby the minister to possibly change legislation, but I wouldn't be hopeful of a good outcome from that perspective. So, just some observations and comments from myself about our roads reports. It's there for you to read, but I see it a little bit similar to the housing strategy, where we ended up having a briefing session with the housing strategy, or at least start conversations. Roads reports, I understand there's a lot of information there, a lot of opinions. What do we do from here? In my opinion, it's always good to start a discussion, whether you get to the end of it or not. I acknowledge council's move that this gets further discussed, and directions and whatever happens in the future by council when the new CEO is present. But from and there's my observations, you don't have to agree with them, but they are mine. There's some very unusual parts of this report, particularly the Wheatons report, including naming of the specific consultant in a resolution. Probably the more critical one is the over-involvement in the authoring and directing what should be in the tender specification. And that I'd make that comment because it just hasn't happened with any other tender we've done. So this is just a standalone type of involvement, which I think goes into almost operational. So the additional one and concerning, and it probably goes to some lack of respect of some officers' opinion, not providing the opportunity for Mr Willsmore to present his report. That was at the Lucendale meeting. Ultimately, it cost us, well, it hadn't cost us anything yet, but approximately 44,000 more than another consultant that probably could have done it as capably. So the part I want to put on record, and I know I've mentioned it to various people, we haven't paid any amount to Wheatons at this point in time, which is highly unusual and probably worrying from a CEO. And I don't know the reason for it. They're entitled to invoice at the start of the project when there was never any dispute between council and the contractor. We didn't get any of that, so we haven't had an invoice since. Probably the only point of conflict may have been the final report, that you may have disputed whether we should pay the full amount or not, as we do with every contract. But yeah, to not have anything when it's nearly an $80,000 consultancy would appear a little unusual. So I think with we've had it in with this council and the previous, we had a lot of discussion about administration's management of contractors, and it's an observation over my time that if we start a project, whether it's a build or a consultancy, if we start it poorly with not a clear definition or expectation of what we want to achieve, it normally ends up badly as well, with something that we perhaps can't use or is not as valuable to it as it could be. So overall, in my opinion, if the contractor engagement process was looked at from an external or objective perspective, it may raise questions as to the procurement process and was it compromised in any way. So that's a question for others to consider, which may include external bodies. So happy to take any questions, but that's my observations, but happy to take any comments.
Thank you, Mr Smart. Next item, Councillor Maguire.
Yeah, I'd like to support that. I do have some concerns with the Wheatons report. As I said in my term on council, the council actually asked for this review to be done. I've never actually seen an elected member actually name a person and a company that they'd like to be put in the tender process. When the tender process came, this was about $40,000 dearer. Council, Mr Willsmore, had put something in the agenda or suggested a company that we go down, which was $40,000 cheaper. There was a blanket move for Wheaton's, a motion moved, no questions asked, and we passed the motion for a $40,000 more expensive consultant. There's whispers, whether it's true or not, that there has been outside discussions going on, but that is what is being spoken about within the community. It worries me that we haven't paid their bill and they don't seem to be forwarding us any invoices. I guess from an elected member's point of view, I'm worried because I feel like there's something coming that I don't know about, and I think if you ask the staff, maybe they would probably feel something similar. Is there another report? What is actually coming? I also worry that elected members have tried or successfully kept this behind closed doors and not want this review to be public, even though the documents are public already. So I guess I am really worried about it, and to me it just doesn't add up. So I guess time will tell, and the public are watching.
Thank you, Councillor Maguire, and I'm sure time will tell.
Yep.
Key project. Oh, Councillor Ross, sorry.
Just to reiterate some of Councillor Maguire's concerns, I have also said my concerns with this process a couple of times now. Given the response of the community that came along the other day for the housing strategy discussion that was there was an attempt to bring it out to the public to be seen through live streaming, and it was declined. But given the number of people that came along and watched it, I've got no doubt that the interest will be there for when we have this road discussion again. I would like to see that. Can we please look at bringing the meeting from the chambers here taken down to the town hall, just in case the number of people there are a lot more than there were at the housing strategy. So, but also, I haven't been on council as long as Councillor Maguire, but this is my 14th year. So I haven't seen a CEO present a report with the concerns like this either in my time. So it's not normal, I'm just a little bit concerned. But I'll be interested in your thoughts, Mayor Ross, on what you thought of the comments that have been put in there about the way the process went. That's all. Just interested to see what your thoughts are.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Grundy.
Seems to be a lot of speculation in the room. I've got just one question, a closed question, and that's a yes/no answer. Has anything that's taken place contravened the Local Government Act?
Councillor Grundy.
I'm not sure, Councillor Grundy. Not sure about the Local Government Act. I'd be concerned about other legislation, which would be the ICAC Act. And I'd remind everyone in this room that all elected members are public officers under that Act. All council staff are public officers under that Act, and any contractor that we engage on a contract also is a public officer. So everyone in this room or the contractors that we use have an obligation. If they have some suspicion, they need to report it. So Local Government Act, probably no known contravention, but there may be other legislation which is more serious. So.
Thank you, Mr. Smart.
Keep going.
Yes.
Not on that one.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
So as Mayor Ross said before, this is my final CEO report, and you're probably thankful of that, some of you, and final council meeting before I retire on Friday. Just like to thank council for the opportunity to lead council and work towards improving our council region. I've enjoyed all my time at Narracot-Lucendale Council, and also the lead local government sector generally over roughly 42 years. I hope I've made a difference in this community and others, and made a positive impact, but as I say, that's for others to judge and have an opinion on. I'd also like to sincerely thank my management team and all employees for their commitment to council and the community, and they will go over and above. Leg shaking now. Stop that on camera.
It's a rare moment, Mr. Smart.
To achieve outcomes on behalf of council and community. So, particularly people are important to organisation and highly valued. Ultimately, we're here to collectively, that's elected council and council administration, to provide leadership, services and facilities to improve our community. We can't effectively do this unless we're a united team with a sense of purpose, and to make sure that we deliver on our commitments to the community, which includes administration. So, in my opinion, I think we're a long way off that mark yet. We're still getting there. I take my share of responsibility and blame for that, and perhaps everyone else also needs to reflect on how we do things, why we do things, what we stood for the community, and I think we're capable of doing better. I guess the question that we all need to ask ourselves is, can we? But ultimately, thank you, and look forward to observing from outside. I'll sit down and be quiet now.
Maybe. Thank you, Trevor. Item 10, key projects. Mr. Willsmore.
Thank you. Just further to the report, Diagonal Road will be sealing later this week, so that was a project we received about $700,000 worth of funding through the Special Local Roads program. So once that's sealed, we'll be able to claim the final amount. So Ball Brothers, the contractors, performed quite well on that project.
Thank you, Mr. Willsmore. I went out to Premier Drive today, and what's the finish time on that one?
So that one we'll be looking at finishing in April, so still a little way to go there.
Wow. Councillor McGuire.
A question through to the chair, to
Absolutely.
Mr. Willsmore. Mr. Willsmore, I do believe we've engaged a company for the research on the flooding area on, is it just specifically the Jenkins Terrace side of town? And if so, my other question is, what would the time frame be to get that report back to council?
Yes, that's correct. We've engaged Tompkins Consulting to do a stormwater management plan for Caves Valley area, so that includes Jenkins Terrace, Hinkley Street, Smith Street, Old Caves Road. So that project was delayed while we're trying to get additional funding through the Stormwater Management Authority. So they've been engaged. They're currently reviewing existing documents, and we'll have a site meeting next month. So we're looking at getting a report to council by June.
Okay.
I noticed in the report it was slipping, so do you expect that to slip out or into the next financial year?
No, we were on target for June, so that was slipping while we're waiting for Stormwater Management Authority, but that came back to council in January, I think, to go out and pay for the full costs. So we'll have that done, completed this financial year.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Willsmore. Any other questions, Mr. Willsmore? 11, finance report. Mrs. Edmonds.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Nothing further to add other than in our plant machinery reserve, after 2 years of patiently waiting, I believe there has been a truck delivery of some $400,000, so that will look slightly different at the next month's meeting. Happy to take questions.
Excellent.
That's one that.
It's always a surprise in finance.
That's one that Danny already did.
Yeah. Thank you. What have we got next? Budget review, 11.2.
Thank you again. So we're up to our second budget review, as you can see from the report and the documentation. So this is the review where we bring in the actuals from the previous financial year. You can see on page 18 a bit of a summary of where we sit. Significant change has mainly come about through that revaluation of the roads and the depreciation recalculation. And at this stage, nothing that hasn't been identified is expected in this last part of the year. So it was probably just interesting to note that as far as the end of June forecast, we would be looking at an operating deficit rather than a surplus. So,
And that's due to a $2 million increase in depreciation.
absolutely, because we still have our buildings reval to do this financial year. So, yeah, happy to take any questions, follow anything up if you have.
Councillor Ross.
Sorry to put you on notice, through the chair. Alex, just in regards to, we saw the big jump in the roads revaluation. What are you hearing at the moment in regards to the next valuation sort of implication we could have on our depreciation? So.
Sure, thank you. Yes, so our external auditors, being Galpins, have given us some feedback. They were looking at anywhere between a 30 to 50% increase in building valuations. It's been 5 years since we've done it externally. So we have factored in about a 30% increase on the 25-26 budget that we're currently prepping ready for presentation. So yeah, so it could be quite significant. The total asset value is not nearly as great as the roads asset value, but it will still make a significant difference.
Councillor Ross.
One point here is that through our last budget deliberations, this sort of evidence was provided previously and ignored, with some of the discussion around how the rates were assessed as in regards to the rate increase. So I just hope this time round there's a bit of a common sense approach in how things are looked at and using all the information that has been presented in the deliberations that are done properly going forward. So
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Would someone like to move that the budget review? Okay, thank you, Councillor Dennis. Councillor Turner, any further discussion? I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 12.1, Naracoorte Regional Livestock Exchange. Would someone like to move the minutes of the 22nd of January of the Livestock Exchange Committee? No? Yes. Councillor Grundy, Councillor Ireland.
I'll give a brief report on our meeting if you like.
Oh.
Yep. So we met on the 29th of January. Just a bit of a summation of how that meeting went and what came out of that. Cattle numbers are well above trend at the moment. Sheep numbers are below trend. Some of those topical matters at the moment are foot rot surveillance. PERS will have a more relaxed approach with regard to foot rot in the sale yards here, and we're hoping that that'll appease the concerned vendors and agents who are concerned about stock leakage into Victorian yards. The EID infrastructure, Mr Smart and Mr Willsmore have been unwavering in seeking a better outcome for the financial grants which would go along with the impost that's been placed on us by the state government when it comes to EID tags and the associated infrastructure. So this looks like being approximately 75% of the cost of the alteration to the yards. There was also an NSQA UCAS audit internally and externally, and they both, the yards passed both of those with flying colours.
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grundy. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. I'd like someone to move that the financial report of the Naracoorte Livestock Exchange be referred to the Audit and Risk Committee. I know they've already looked at it, but would someone move to that effect? Councillor Turner, Councillor Ross, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 12.2, Audit and Risk Committee. Would someone like to move that the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee, Councillor Ross, of the 11th of February be taken as an accurate record? Thank you. A seconder, Councillor Turner. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. And finally, that the reports relating to the performance of the Naracoorte Livestock Exchange of the meeting of the Audit and Risk Committee on the 11th of February. Is that right? Yep. Not the 29th.
Yep.
I received and noted.
Yep, that's right. That's as it's written. That's right.
Okay. Yep. Would someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Ross, thank you. Second, thank you, Councillor Turner. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 13, reports for decision. Ms Edmonds.
Thank you, Nemos. Part of our scheduled procedures with administration is to review policies, as you're aware. So Mrs. Collins, or Josephine, more so than myself, have sat down and gone through multiple policies which were correlated, often crossed over. So we've looked at the 4 existing policies and looked to combine them into one. Josie prepared a summary for you regards the changes, and we're looking at just using the one policy which hopefully covers. A few of them we found probably could be archived, some of the aspects of the policies that had been previously. I've tried to simplify it and keep it simple. So happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions in regard to the proposed policy of community organisation finance and other support policy? I think it's wonderful you've been able to do that. I had a discussion with Mrs. Collins today, and I thought it's really well done. So thank you. Would someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Turner, Councillor Crosling. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. 13.2, Mrs. Edmonds. It's your night. Night of nights.
This is a lot of fun. As far as our local roads and community infrastructure funds go, we're now in phase 4, as the report says. Because we are now deferring the Narracrook Creek Weirs project, we now have the issue of having to allocate those funds that were initially allocated and approved through that work schedule. As I've noted in the report, the funds have to be spent by the 30th of June, so we face a use it or lose it mentality or approach with this one. So I looked at the current approved projects to try and reallocate as much as we could. Fortunately, Clarkson's Road was in there, so it was a big chunk. Some of the guidelines within the grant funding is that you have to look at new projects, you can't look at existing projects. So this far into the financial year, now that's so yes, so we were able to allocate that large portion to the Clarkson's Road project. And then we also found we had to look for a couple of new projects because to make the most of those funds that are available. So hence my suggestion about the chairs for the Narracrook Town Hall and the festoon lighting for the CBD. Both of those were going to be allocated into the 25-26 budget, so they were in our AMPs as projects for next year. More so than anything, they don't require a contractor to do the works, so we wouldn't have to join or be tacked onto a timeline as far as a contractor goes. So just a suggestion, open to discussion, was looking for the recommendation to be endorsed so that I can then go and lodge the request for reallocation of the funds through the LRCIP fund. Takes about 4 weeks, bit of a delay, timing's of the essence. So happy to take any questions or
Councillor
comments.
Grundy.
I've got a question, and essentially I'm going to read it because it's a bit convoluted, this whole issue. Will that money be lost from the Weir project forever? And I guess you've answered that tonight, Ms Edmonds. Or are we able to draw on budgeted funding that's intended for the other projects as listed in the recommendation for the benefit of the Weirs going forward? In other words, a book entry internally so that it's reflected as we hoped it would be in the first place.
Thank you, Councillor Grundy. So firstly, I can't predict whether there'll be a phase 5 with LRCIP. I imagine if there is, that we could look to reallocate to that project because it was well supported through the approval process. I'd also be happy to incorporate it into our next budget and consider it through the proceedings we go through with 25-26. So that was my thoughts with it, that we keep it present in the works and we look to source those funds. Ideally, there may be another grant opportunity that comes along that we can reallocate funds to. I wasn't here with the history of the project, whether it's originally been allocated through general revenue funds initially, and it's only come about and changed direction through the grant opportunity. So perhaps Mr. Wilsmore might be able to provide a bit more context for Mr. Smart around that one.
Yeah, it was just originally funded through general revenue, so we took the opportunity through the LRCOP option to seek the funding for it. We'll continue to look for other funding streams. Landscapes, as I say, have different opportunities. We've received funding for currently doing work in the North and South Parklands. Previously done work along the creek through that program. The Native Vegetation Council just released a grant funding today for restoration works. We need to look at those guidelines to see if that's an option too, but continue to look for alternative sources of external income.
Councillor Grundy.
Well, I accept both of those answers, and that's good. If there are future opportunities by way of grant funding, that's excellent. But can we, these are budgeted items in the future. Can we draw on those same intended funds for the weirs going forward? In other words, you know what I mean.
Yes. I think Mr. Smart.
Yeah, so because the item's been delayed due to the supplier issues, so that will be put up to budget again when it's ready. Probably 25, 26, I imagine will go in there again. So that would normally be funded from our cash reserves because it's a capital item. So the same process would follow. So the funds haven't been allocated; they have been within budget, but the funds are still there if we don't spend them. So that's still there. That's council's decision each budget cycle to say yes, we'll do it to that project or another, depending on So it's purely from cash reserves. If we don't spend it, that remains there because we're not spending it on something else.
Councillor Turner.
I was going to move the motion as put.
Thank you. Second. Moved Councillor Turner. Second, Councillor Downwood.
It just appears to me that there's no financial implications here that would affect the long-term cost. We're allocating funds to something that didn't have grants to it, and we're taking those funds from something that did have grants to it. So currently the weirs are unfunded, but they'll still be done, and these were unfunded and are now funded. And there's an opportunity, I guess, to relook at the weirs being funded through another grant. So I can only see upside. And congratulations on doing this. Alex, very good work.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Mrs. Edmonds. The joyous occasion, Mrs. Edmonds.
Okay. So I think this is my definitely. So recently, as per the report, we've had a general inquiry regarding a potential sale of a parcel of land, as per the report, on the corner of Smith and Stewart Terrace. It is classified as road reserve. I've provided perspective regarding the current policy as to the general opinion on the sale of land, particularly road reserves, as well as Mr. Smart found some historical information regarding previous meetings with ministers and emergency services and the like. So really I'm just looking for the recommendation so that I can further communicate with them to say happy to progress with discussions, should that be what you're wanting to do.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. And Councillor Grundy. Moved Councillor Crosling. Councillor Grundy.
Thank you very much. Look, generally, I'd like to make clear that I endorse our current roads policy when it comes to not selling them. However, I think that that's probably intended for roads which are intended for ingress and egress and public usage. This really is not in line with that. So, I'm supportive of this completely.
I'll take that as a second.
Correct.
Thank you.
I was going to
Councillor Maguire.
dip my toe in the water and speak against the motion if I can. It is a unique little piece of land. It's right at the end, obviously, of that reserve. But obviously, I know the public aren't meant to, but it is a grounds for people to park their cars on with for sale signs. It's also an excess. That is the same piece of land, or I'm not talking the same yet. I'm just getting looks from Mr. McCrosty, that's all. So I also look at it as it serves purpose as an overflow parking for the OTR as well. staff park over there, and sometimes, and I think if we look at the OTR and the amount of traffic that's going through that at the moment is ridiculous. And I've actually seen, I spoke to Mr. Willsmore about it a week ago, I've actually seen trucks banked up, have gone around the roundabout, but actually can't turn into the OTR because the trucks are backed up to the pumps, so there's actually nowhere for them to turn into. So I did suggest maybe, is that an option to actually have that as a potential overflow for them to wait? The OTR is probably exceeded all expectations, and it is a thriving part of our community. I just think that piece of land is a little bit more value than we probably give it credit for. That's all.
Mr. McCroskey, how many square metres would that be?
I'll find out very quickly for you, Mayor Ross, but something in regards to this is up for discussion. So part of the feedback could be with the realignment of the boundary, could be try not to encroach in that car parking space as well. So it's still in discussion phases. If that's something that the council would like to preserve in regards to that car parking space, then that could be part of the negotiations. We go back to the safe comment for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. McCroskey. I had some questions. Councillor Turner.
I was just going to speak for the motion, and I'm highly supportive of it. I mean, I think there's an opportunity to create an icon on that corner if the CFS want to build their Limestone Coast regional facility there, sitting alongside what potentially could be the police Limestone Coast facility. I mean, it's the beginning of something that is what I've been pretty passionate about, which is recognising that Narracourt is this should be the service centre of the Limestone Coast, and these are significant organisations, government organisations, and I think it'd be wonderful to have those large sites there. It's a very busy part of town where people travel north, south or east, west, so it's a great look for the town. And I think we'd be very supportive. And the motion's not saying that we give that land all away, it's just saying that we support the conversations about realigning some of those boundaries. So I'm quite excited to see this go forward.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Crossley.
Mayor Ross, I just wanted to clarify, it does read in the recommendation that this is just a continued discussion. So I am assuming that if and when it develops more and goes down the track, that it will come back to this chamber, and at that point in time we'll be able to say yay or nay, just to clarify.
Thank you, Councillor Crossley. Councillor McCroskey's been on his computer.
Administration, yes, but not council. Mayor Ross.
I apologise.
2,100.
Next week.
How many? Sorry.
2,100 square metres.
2,100, a couple of housing blocks. Right. Councillor Ross.
Just one question. In regards to the discussions that they obviously had, have they been looking, it was through the chair to Mr. Rossi, whether he's aware or whether you're aware as well, but has there been any other discussions in regards to other locations that they've looked at trying to do this precinct? I have got no problem at all in principle with it being there, because it allows them to go north, south, east, west pretty easily. So from a logistical position, it's probably great. The only thing I've got there is it is potentially the gateway to our community too. So, you know, in regards to, it's an opportunity to really put more further businesses down there. I would have thought that would be a way of attracting more people into the community by saying, you know, it's the gateway to our town potentially. So, by having them there, okay, it's great, but at the same time too, having businesses there which might entice people to come into that community. We're missing out on that opportunity. So, does it need to be there? This is the question I'm throwing out there, as in for further discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. In fact, if this was to progress, it would be a regional headquarters. There wouldn't be fire trucks leaving that particular area, going north, south and east. But Mr. Smart.
So I guess just going back in the history that is within the report. So it's been in front of council a number of times, probably previous council and this council, that we pushed the state government fairly hard to actually get the site fully demolished. And then we also expressed both through informal meetings through the Mayor and myself at Country Cabinet to suggest that was a good site for regional, whether it be SAPOL headquarters or CFS. My understanding, they have been looking for options, but they're somewhat limited due to the size requirements. But we also expressed our opinion, and that was from elected council, that we thought that was a good site for such infrastructure. So that actually has been through this council, only within the last 2 years. So I'll suggest, I take on your comments that, it's a gateway, but I think the standards that they were build should be a welcoming feature to us as well, as any business may be. So my thoughts are council's already probably gone down certain pathways to encourage probably the type of build on there. My opinion, would be a good one to back. Once discussion's been had, council works out a commercial price. We don't give it away. At the country cabinet meetings, we also expressed, if it was SAPOL or CFS, that we could look at what we could do to assist by way of maybe civil works, accessibility, nothing major, but that's probably future considerations you may take into account as well. But I'd be supporting a recommendation that we look favourably on that land.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. Is there any further discussion? Being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Reports for information from Mr. Steed. Nothing to add. Mr. Willsmore? Excellent. Planning, Mr. McCroskey.
Thank you, Mayor Ross.
I got that right.
You did. As per my report, the administration staff met with Plus Planning Youth Services a fortnight ago in regards to the regional plan. They have got feedback from the State Planning Commission in regards to the information we've provided them. Some of the recommendations that the Council Administration staff put to them has been removed based on a number of factors such as growth areas and statistics and so forth. They are in the process of fine-tuning the consultation process, and again we at that meeting that we would like to have a session with the elected member body so they can provide feedback also.
Thank you, Mr. McCroskey. Any questions? Being none, thank you. Item 14.3.
Nothing
Mrs.
further,
Collins?
Mayor Ross, thank
Nothing
you.
further. Any questions? Councillor Crosling.
Just a couple of comments. Thank you for the great report again, Ms. Collins. It's such a busy time of year at the moment with lots of events happening. Obviously the Fringe is coming up this weekend, so lots of awesome things happening in our town. I just wanted to make note, with all the things that are happening, we did unfortunately miss out on holding the basketball carnival here in Narracor last Saturday due to unfortunate weather, and that's no fault of the Narracor Basketball Association. They are bound by heat policy under the Basketball SA, and it has to be under 37 to 38 degrees, which obviously it wasn't, and we don't have an air-conditioned stadium. So I just want council to be aware of that it wasn't just the fact that they had to cancel the carnival, it's everyone cancelled their accommodation, not a dollar was spent, and we are a council about making this a thriving economy. That's something that I think we need to take on board, that by not supporting anything at the regional sporting complex, things like this don't happen. People don't come to our town. There was many businesses that were prepared to open on Sundays because it is a huge money spinner for the bricks and mortar shops down the main street. And when things like this happen, if we had an air-conditioned stadium, it would have happened, but because we don't have an air-conditioned stadium, things like that don't happen. But obviously there's lots of things also just happening around the region over the next couple of months, so it'd be great to see people head out and support all the things that are wonderful events that are happening.
Thank you, Councillor Crosling. No questions, further questions? No. Item 15, publications documents. There are none. Questions without notice. I haven't received any questions without notice. Motions without notice. Motions with notice. Councillor Downwood.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This was brought to my attention by Mr. McCulley that there's quite a number of seniors that go up to the swimming lake, and they're on a daily basis, and some of them are a little less ambulatory than others, and vertical ladders are very difficult for them to leave the lake, and they're asking for steps similar to in the hydrotherapy pool up at the hospital to be installed so that they're able to walk into and out of the lake. They've been asking for this for the last couple of years and haven't received any progress, but I think that it's something that we can certainly look at doing. They've requested it be at Gate 4 alongside the existing ladder into deep water, so I'm looking for the support from Council
Councillor DeGenis.
I'd like to second the motion.
Councillor Downwood move that. Thank you, Councillor Downwood. Seconded, Councillor, and absolutely.
As someone who swims in a swimming lake 3 times a week, swimming laps, I see that elderly members of the community jumping in and out and enjoying the process. I'd be just interested in Councillor Downwood's comment about the mechanisms they're using to bring this to light to council, because I feel that if they'd put it in writing, we would be made aware as councillors, but if we're not receiving that information, I'm not sure, but definitely support this motion, and I think it's something that is a very popular aspect, and I'd like to hint, ask if the swimming lake could be kept going for another 3 weeks this year, but we'll see how we go with that.
Thank you for seconding that, Councillor Dennis. If there's any further discussion around that report that we've provided, there being none, I put the motion. All those in favour?
Does Councillor Downwood have a response to my question in regard through the chair, in regard to the way they asked us about helping?
I can read a letter that Mr. McCulley sent me. If the meal...
No, I mean, you know how you said that they'd contacted council asking for stuff to be done, but it hadn't happened? That was just a query I had, because we have I just like to highlight to the community, we do have work orders and emails, and if they want to email us and ask us to do things, and they've obviously contacted Councillor Downwood, and I'd like to commend him for bringing it to council.
Mr. Smart.
Mr. Willsmore may correct me, but yes, we have had some contact over a period of time. My understanding, we have responded, and we did install a different set of steps than what we already had there. So there was some response and actions taken, but now they're probably seeking something slightly different as well. I think that's my understanding.
Thank you. I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. There are no questions without notice. And at that point, item 20, the CEO recommends that we go into confidence in regard to a contract of the yards at the Narrowcourt Livestock Exchange. Thank you very much, everybody.